Protect our queens.
They told me Asia Wilson wasn't marketable, bro.
Do you practice this? Was this spur of the moment?
Is Juju Watkins better than Caitlin Clark? I feel like people have been saying that already.
I mean, there's the argument that she was the best point guard as a rookie last year.
I still think Arike is a better basketball player than Sabrina Ionescu is.
NaLyssa Collier is unstoppable right now.
Maybe, just maybe, NaLyssa Collier is breathing down her neck. Asia Wilson knows it too.
Protect our queens.
They told me Asia Wilson was a NaLyssa Collier certainly wasn't breathing down Asia Wilson's neck last night.
Oh, wow.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back or welcome to the Protect Our Queens podcast presented by Basketball Society. With me, as always, my guy, my brother in Christ, my partner in women's basketball crime, Martin Soares. Yeah, I said it.
You know, the fact that I feel like now that that's the last part of our new updated intro, the way we start is going to have to be, it's almost like we have to say something regarding Fee breathing down Asia Wilson's neck. Like it's like,
hey, man.
And
I just know
circle back on our conversation about Fee being the best player in the world. And it's like, I know you're not hating on Fee, but it's like,
no,
hey,
I'm not. We love Fee, but
yeah,
Asia
right.
would not have had the issues that NaLyssa Collier had with Natasha Howard last night. That's all I'm saying. Shout out to the Indiana Fever for winning the Commissioner Cup championship last night without Caitlin Clark, a big win. Martin Soares texted me last night. He goes, "Why do the Lynx have 45 points in the fourth quarter?" I'm like, well, Natasha Howard is why. So,
right.
There you go.
I'm on my way in from coming back from vacation. You know, on a little road trip back home and checking the box score of the game. Caught a little bit on my phone, but just like I'm like, man, what is the score right now? What is happening? Minnesota, listen, as sharp and disciplined and productive as they can be offensively, we even saw last year. We talked about times where they can get a little dry offensively. I mean, if Kayla's not hitting shots, I mean, it starts with Fee. If Fee is not on her 25 and 10 type of time, and if someone like Natasha Howard is limiting her, that limits Minnesota, badly. If Fee is not MV Fee, Minnesota is vulnerable. So yeah. I think that's what happened.
That's a fact. Last weekend was a pretty eventful weekend for the both of us. You took a gander down there to go gallivant around the great city of Orlando, Florida for a couple days, and
mostly at the hotel. It wasn't really gallivanting. We were mostly at the hotel. Lazy River at the hotel. Really nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Really nice setup. Shout out to Hilton. Shout out to Signia. Great hotel. Great restaurants. Great food. Great time. Great weather. Great pina coladas. You gotta love it. You're not Dwayne Marcus anymore. You are now Deacon Dwayne Marcus. Show your respect. Show your reverence.
That's funny.
That boy was ordinated over the weekend. My God.
That did happen. I will tell you, I have never been more stimulated. No, that's not true. I think that's the most overstimulated I've been since my prom send-off.
Now, did I see you since the prom send-off? Oh, my.
Bro, just all the pictures and the thank yous and it was so.
Did you have to drive the church bus down to Pennsylvania? Did I see that? Was that for that, or was that something else?
Well, it was that weekend. So here's what happened, and I didn't have to. So I also wasn't supposed to, but I don't think anyone important watches this stuff, so it's okay. Basically, what happened though was
you need a bus license. Don't you need
you need to have a CDL? Yeah, but I can drive. Yeah, it's okay. And I only went around the corner. It's fine. But no, what happened was basically there were some people who wanted to go eat something to eat, and the bus driver, who's a mentor of mine, we were like, "There's only one person on the bus. Just drive the bus around the corner." And I was like, "Okay." I just drove the bus around the corner, and then I sat there, and then it turned into a very Thursday was a great test of patience. You know what I mean? You know how the old folks always say before you get elevated in God, you get tested a little bit. Thursday was my test, and I failed. And I got tested again on Sunday, and I failed. So clearly God not through me yet, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll pass one of these tests one of these days. But no, I did drive the church bus a little bit. And it was, it was a church bus. I'll never do it again though. I'll tell you that much. You'll never catch me behind the wheel.
Dwayne.
Yeah, I got to serve communion on Sunday. Look at that. I got to put that suit back on and serve communion with the white gloves on Sunday. So that'll be
new level of responsibility now.
Oh my gosh, that'll be funny. That'll be fun. We do have a couple of things we're going to go over today. The Las Vegas Aces traded for NaLyssa Smith, and it appears that the Washington Mystics are looking to move off of Aaliyah Edwards. We're going to start with the Aces, but in order to do that, let's go back to the last time Martin and I were on a show together, and I was talking about the potential of the Aces trading for some additional support for A'ja Wilson. We talked a lot, and you and I both agree, even though there's talked a lot, and you and I both agree, even though there seems to be a bit of a difference on where it's going to come from, which makes sense because you emphasized the Candace Parker point, which I understand completely. But you and I both agree that the Aces, and specifically A'ja Wilson, need help in the post.
Yeah.
Right. That was obviously the reason why we went out and we signed Cheyenne Parker-Tyus, but she's not going to be available until later on in the season because she's pregnant. So Kia Stokes, love her. She's not the answer. You don't think that Liz Kitley is the answer. Now, in the context of Candace Parker, I don't think that Liz Kitley is the answer either. But I do think if I got to pick red pill, blue pill, Liz Kitley, Kia Stokes, you give me Liz Kitley every day of the week, twice on Sunday. Now, what I think the Aces should do, and I'll even say what I think they might do, and this isn't going to obviously replicate Candace Parker, but it will be an upgrade from Kia Stokes, is trade for Stephanie Dolson. Alrighty, so I thought they should trade for Stephanie Dolson. The Aces said no. We're going to trade a first-round pick in 2027 for NaLyssa Smith. Now, I love NaLyssa Smith. I think that this will work out. First-round pick is a bit much, especially if Aaliyah Edwards is on the board, which makes me wonder.
I mean, the thing is, though, she was a number 2 overall pick. I think that's what people tend to forget. Like, I know we look at where you are today in terms of production and what you're doing as a player now, but I feel like where you were drafted matters. And it was just a few years ago. Like, she was a number 2 overall pick. So I get the hesitation, especially who that first round pick could turn into in that draft in a couple years. I mean, I get that, but I feel like where you were drafted as a player still matters.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I will say, like, the Aces, regardless of how bad I don't want to say bad, but we haven't been great this season. I mean, we're bad for like Aces standards, but given how we played this season, even like how we were going to play next season, like that first round pick in 2027 would be right around where we normally pick in the bottom 5. So like there were a lot of people who were like, we just gave the Wings Juju or like realistically, the Aces. If the Aces were actually going to have a shot to pick Juju, do believe that pick would not have been in there, right? That's the equivalent of just trading an upper second, especially too, you're talking about more teams going to be picking in 2027. There's going to be 2 more teams picking in 2027. So that pick would be even lower, like the equivalent of what a second round pick is now. So that does play a part in it as well. For me, as are a lot of other Aces fans on Twitter, it makes you wonder with the news about Aaliyah Edwards being shopped, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It makes me wonder if the Aces called for Aaliyah Edwards and the Mystics said no, and that's why they traded that first round pick to NaLyssa Smith. That's like what my running thought is right now. I don't imagine if they had a chance to get Aaliyah Edwards for the same value that they would have said no to that and yes to NaLyssa Smith. But I could be wrong there. Obviously, we don't have a GM. It's like there's no one to ask these questions to. Right. But I mean, we also bullied the team out of not having a GM. We caused these issues ourselves, but. On the NaLyssa Smith point, from a basketball standpoint, I mean, you've talked a lot about A'ja needing more help in the post. And in that same, not in that same conversation, but before we had that conversation last week, you talked about exactly what you mean by getting A'ja Wilson a bit more help.
She does need more help in the front court. It's not Liz Kitley, as I keep telling you. She had Candace Parker. She needs another dual forward or hybrid post next to her. It's not Liz Kitley. And it's not it's not nothing against her or Liz Kitley. What they need is other players to start being great. It's so much about A'ja, and that's great, and we love it. I'm a fan. She's great. She's been the best. Great. But that wears on you. We love to brag about she's the best defender. She blocks shots. She does. Do you know how tiring that is, Marcus?
So I still haven't figured that out quite yet, it seems. So we'll talk. I don't like how hard you are on Liz Kitley these days. But what does NaLyssa Smith bring to Vegas in your estimation? Do you like the move of trading for NaLyssa Smith?
Remind me what else was involved in the trade besides the pick? What else did Vegas send? What was it just the first round pick?
It was just the pick for NaLyssa Smith, and then we cut We cut Liz Kitley.
Right. Yeah.
And Tiffany Mitchell.
And Tiffany Mitchell. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, nothing against Liz Kitley or Kia Stokes. I think I still hold a little resentment towards Liz Kitley for winning ACC Player of the Year over Hannah Hidalgo.
You know what?
When she shouldn't have.
You know what? I forgot about that.
Yeah. I had to do some soul searching and be honest. I think I still hold on to that a little bit.
I keep forgetting the basketball interconnectivity that is Martin Torres. I want to, you know what? That makes perfect sense.
I shouldn't be holding on to that, but I feel like just
we ride. We here protect our queens. We ride for hours. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Because I think Liz Kitley can be good. I think she has value for her size and what I think she can play. But I mean, she had been injured too. I was never fully sold completely on who she was, and that ACC Player of the Year thing just left a bad taste in my mouth. But when it comes to NaLyssa Smith, I think this isn't exactly what I would look for, what I was talking about in terms of because I think because when you proposed Steph Dolson, I liked that because big body, stretch big, and she's a great passer, playmaker. That's what I felt like was really the ideal front court help for Asia. Someone else who can be a playmaker. Steph Dolson can stretch big. Steph Dolson, the center, big body, and she can play make. NaLyssa Smith is a little different. Now, she can be the dual forward hybrid post type player that I said Asia could really use next to her, or just use as like Vegas could use as an additional front court player. So I think NaLyssa Smith can help them. I think I'm wondering. I think this is a great opportunity for NaLyssa Smith. I think she can do things in the front court as far as she can space the floor. She can knock down shots. She is a face-up player. She can go off the dribble. She is that dual forward hybrid post type player that can add in the front court what Vegas hasn't had outside of Asia Wilson thus far. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see how she embraces this opportunity. Obviously, she reacted to the trade and said she was like gut wrenched or whatever word she used. I'm paraphrasing, but she said that it was, but because of how she found out, it was clearly like something that was kind of sprung on her type of thing. She's not playing with her girlfriend anymore. People are upset about that. I understand. But it's a tremendous opportunity. And so I wonder so I'm just thinking if this is going to be more pressure on NaLyssa, because not that she has to be their savior, but this was a move that they made thinking that she can come and help them address one of their biggest flaws right now. So she has some responsibility to come in and really be aggressive. Like, they need her scoring. They need her to play some of her best basketball if she's going to contribute to Vegas getting back to where they want to be in terms of their standard. So I wonder how she embraces that kind of pressure, but I'm also wondering, is it going to be pressure, or is it going to be a situation where she can come in and really not have pressure? And I mean, she's playing next to an MVP, the best player in the world. She's playing in a system, in a culture that's championship ready, other really good players on the team. So it's not like she has to do so much. So I'm wondering if, less of a responsibility playing in a championship culture will help her to kind of just fill her spots, do what she can when she can, because she's a highly capable offensive player and defensive. I think we've seen her make some strides. She plays when she's really dialed in, she plays really rangy and with effort, and she's very versatile. Yep. So I look forward to seeing how she can embrace this opportunity, because I think with her skill set, she surely can help them with what she needs, but it's on her to kind of like play her best basketball right now, because Vegas really needs her to do that if this is going to be worth it.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, from a excuse me, from a fit standpoint, I like the fit. I don't like the fit as much as I would have liked a Steph Dolson fit, just because I think, like, to your last point about the pressure, Steph Dolson won a championship with Chicago a couple years ago. She's been in the league for what we're talking about 12, 13 years. Like, she knows what it takes to win a championship. She knows, like, so Stephanie Dolson we don't have those questions if they trade for Steph Dolson in that regard. I think thinking about it, though, comparing NaLyssa Smith to Steph Dolson, thinking about where Steph is right now and moving to Vegas, there are some similarities in the way that the Vegas offense is run and the way that Washington's offense is run, that the more I thought about it, the more I thought that maybe trading for Steph Dolson actually would do more good for A'ja Wilson specifically than it would for the team as a whole, or even for Steph Dolson, because the Aces do like to get out and run, right? They do like to score quick. Like, that's not the only difference between Steph Dolson doing it in Vegas and Steph Dolson doing it in Washington is she gets a little bit better opportunity to win another championship, right? NaLyssa Smith fits more in that. Like, she's younger, she's quicker, she's strong in transition. To your point, she's more, she can be more impactful offensively than just shooting threes, right? She's strong off the dribble. She can drive to the bucket. She's good off in the paint. She's good in the mid range. Like, she can do those things. The other thing too, and I don't know, I didn't check. I don't know how often NaLyssa has been put in these situations, whether it's in Indiana. I don't think it ever happened in Dallas through the little bit that she was there, but she could also be a small ball 5 for them if A'ja Wilson needed to sit, whether because she just for minutes or just because she might get in foul trouble, which is rare, but it happens, right? Like, there's an added level of versatility to the way that the lineups can function and flow with NaLyssa Smith being there, where I look at the NaLyssa Smith trade and I don't hate it. I just want to see it before I say that I think that now. I don't think NaLyssa Smith is the difference between the Aces, making it out of the first round and winning a championship.
Agreed.
Right? You
Agreed.
still have
I'm not
to
sure
look at,
it moves the needle that much.
right? Because the ceiling of the Aces as far as winning a championship, even though getting A'ja Wilson post help was needed, in my opinion, the ceiling for whether or not the Aces can win a championship was not dependent upon post help. It's dependent upon Jewel Lloyd finding her rhythm and staying there.
Yeah.
Jackie Young playing better consistently and figuring out what Chelsea Gray's role actually is at this stage in her career as the point guard. And what I mean by that is we know that she is the point guard and we know that she can take games over when she needs to, but like, there needs to be, to me, it seems like there needs to be a little bit more definition to what that looks like. Like, is she just coming out here to just be pass first all the time and then flip that switch if needed? Are we actually looking for Chelsea Gray to score in certain moments? Like, what I feel like that's also a piece of this puzzle that hasn't actually been talked about or touched on much because of the other glaring issues of the roster. NaLyssa Smith helps with the post depth and the post support for A'ja Wilson. So I think now the attention shifts to Jewel Lloyd, Jackie Young. You guys have to be the all-star, all-league caliber guards that we know that you can be, so that we can really get a full understanding of just how far this Aces team can go. Because no matter how well NaLyssa Smith plays in Vegas, if Jewel Lloyd is still out here shooting concert dates, and if Jackie Young still isn't being the prolific offensive player that we know that she can be off the ball or on it, the Aces can still get bounced out of the first round by the Mercury or the Lynx or whoever, no matter how well NaLyssa Smith fits alongside A'ja Wilson. So that's, it's I don't want to say NaLyssa Smith is like a Band-Aid over a bullet hole, but it feels like, at least right now, that potentially this could just be a Band-Aid over a bullet hole.
Yeah, I think it was worth it to get a player, a front court player, another forward who can do things offensively like NaLyssa can, that they just didn't have. Yes, 3 days ago. They didn't have that kind of extra component in the front court. And we talked about the pick in 2027. I think that I wouldn't call it like desperate or a shot in the dark or, like to your point, a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. I don't think it's like, I don't think it comes off as desperate. I think it comes off as a solid move to pick up a player who can contribute right now, not withstanding what you think could be a solid player you might get in 2 years in the 2027 draft. Yeah. As you mentioned before, it's not even realistic to assume that's going to be a Juju or one of these top level players coming out of college. So I think it was worth it. It's something that we are going to have to see. Again, it's so much on NaLyssa. I want to see what she can do to show that she can be a difference maker. Because that's not just skill set, that's also like effort. And I think there have been times when people have kind of questioned NaLyssa Smith from an effort standpoint and just like her overall activity, how engaged she is in the game. And so I look forward to seeing her temperament and her energy and how she embraces the opportunity, because from a skill set standpoint, she can help Vegas look a little different. She does offer them something that they didn't have before outside of Asia.
For sure. If you're just joining us, we are talking about NaLyssa Smith being traded to the Las Vegas Aces, and we'll get to see them. We'll get to see NaLyssa Smith, I would assume, in action in some capacity tomorrow. The Aces do have a game tomorrow, as is like the entire league, except for the Fever and the Lynx, I think. So she'll make her season debut tomorrow, I would assume, and we'll get a better idea of what that looks like. Let's switch gears now and talk about another highly picked player over the last couple of years who could potentially be on the move, and that is Aaliyah Edwards. In order to do that, though, we have to go back to a couple last week, actually, where Martin Sories actually talked about Aaliyah Edwards potentially being traded on the show.
Dallas and Washington. Enrique for Aaliyah. Who says no? Get Aaliyah back with Paige.
Yeah.
But Washington probably says no, because again, I don't think they would sign up for having Enrique come in and swallow up the shots and the reps that they're able to get to their young guards right now. So I think Washington says no, but I'm like, what's up with Aaliyah Edwards? It feels like she could be moved.
There is a potential for Aaliyah Edwards to be moved. It was reported yesterday that the Washington Mystics are actively talking with other teams to figure out a better home for Aaliyah Edwards. This is not surprising because we talked about it. I was a bit puzzled initially, but I saw someone on Twitter bring up the point that with the expansion draft that we're going to have again next season, because we do have the Toronto team and the Toronto Tempo and the Portland team coming into the league in 2026, the questions about whether or not the Mystics would actually be able to protect Aaliyah Edwards again in this expansion draft, coupled with the fact that she just hasn't been able to produce in the capacity that they would like for her to at this point for a number of different reasons. It does make sense a bit now that they would make this move to try to move her, to send her somewhere else. I actually think it's a good faith thing. They know she's good. They wanted to be able to provide elsewhere. You were pretty much on it before we even got to it, right? With the prediction of Aaliyah Edwards possibly being traded specifically to the Dallas Wings. Is that still the perfect landing spot in your mind for Aaliyah Edwards?
I think it is for a lot of people, just to get her back with Paige. If you look at the comments under all these posts and tweet replies and thread replies, everyone's saying Dallas because they just want the Paige and Aaliyah reunion from when they played together at UConn. And I think I mean that's what Dallas needs. I've said one of the biggest things that Dallas will need in the next few years, building around Paige, is an elite forward or big to pair her with. Aaliyah would be a strong candidate, again, having that chemistry that they had together at UConn. I had suggested like maybe look at Enrique, but I said I know why Washington wouldn't want to swing for like an Enrique. That might be a little too much, but I still feel like it could be dynamic. I still feel like that could be a cool possibility. But I'm still I'm struggling a little bit thinking about landing spots for Aaliyah. I don't know if you have any other ideas in mind. Dallas really does stick out to me as a great landing spot. Most teams have their forwards and their bigs. I think this is because she deserves to go somewhere where she's going to play.
Yeah.
And that's the issue here in Washington. The main issue for her is Kiki Iriafen. She is owning the power forward spot. She has it locked down. We both thought that they could coexist and play together. I just think that it's proven now that they're both true fours. Maybe each of them or one of them could be a small ball five type of player. I just think that they're both true fours. And Washington already has two good fives in Dolson and Shakira Austin. Yeah. And so I just think they ended up with a good problem. It's kind of a logjam there in the front court. But and they're all good players. So yeah, you don't want to just lose her for nothing in the expansion draft. She's a good player. You can get something back. You can probably make a good deal for her. So I'm not thinking of an ideal place other than Dallas right now.
Yeah, and to your point, this is something that would, like, the options for the Mystics were to not protect her in the expansion draft this offseason and lose her for nothing, or try to get something from her or get something for her. And if you have to weigh those options, the odds are you want to get something for her. Off the top of my head, the only other team, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan, the only other team that it would have made sense to trade for her would have been the Aces, which is why I was struggling so much with the NaLyssa Smith thing, because again, we're talking about forward help. You can have all the same questions about Aaliyah that you could about NaLyssa, about whether it's too much pressure, about how it actually fits, about what it looks like, it works, yada, yada, yada. But with the Aces having made their move for NaLyssa Smith, it's very unlikely that they're going to also make a move for Aaliyah Edwards.
Yeah.
So aside from the wings, like I'm thinking, if the goal is just to find some place where Aaliyah Edwards can play, she'd probably get some minutes in Connecticut because they're the worst team in the league right now, which is what I predicted. I got a lot of slack for that, but I did predict that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking like you're not going to trade her to Chicago. The Dream are set with what they have. The only other team I could see maybe wanting to make a trade would be the Liberty, but I don't think the Liberty would go all in on Aaliyah Edwards.
I was going to mention that though, but they have enough. They don't have to go all in.
Yeah, but they could.
With John Quell's health in question, maybe the Liberty could take a look at that. I mean, they have tons. They have plenty of good players to offer. They have assets. I don't know what their draft picks are or anything, but like they have tons of players. I mean, I don't think it would be an all in. I think it would just be a, hey, you want, these two players, these three, or one or two, I mean, it may not be like a whole haul for Aaliyah Edwards.
Sure.
They have the assets. What if the Liberty considered it?
I was thinking about that, but I did take a peek at their roster. The only player they have listed as a center on the depth chart is Niara Sabally. So I think it would be more likely. I think it would be more likely that the Liberty would probably try to go get Liz Kitley because she's a center. Than it would be to Joe. And I say that because you go get Liz Kitley, you're not giving anything up there. And then if John Quell comes back, you don't want it anymore. I mean, you can cut it. Listen, I'm not trying to sound like a Liz Kitley super fan, but I really do think that Liz Kitley can be beneficial to any of these teams out here. I just think comparatively, Liz Kitley's on the open market. You don't have to get anything up for her. Aaliyah Edwards, you have to give something up. And they need a center. Liz Kitley's a center. Liz Kitley would be just fine in New York playing alongside, just filling. I'm not saying she needs to play John Quell Jones minutes, and obviously she's not going to do what John Quell does, but it would help give some support to they need a center. Aaliyah Edwards is an interesting one. She's probably going to end up in Dallas. If she doesn't end up in Dallas, I'd be shocked because all the other teams, like I can't think of any other team that would trade for her. I mean,
yeah, and I'm wondering
maybe
if
the Valkyries, but I don't even know
if
they would want to do that because what they have
seems like
they're
fine.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good where they are. Yeah. I wonder if Dallas could even make that move without trading Enrique. I'm wondering if it would take Enrique to get Aaliyah Edwards.
So I did look. I did try to toy around with the roster and see what the most attractive packages that don't include Enrique would be in order for Dallas to get Aaliyah, and I have a couple here. They could, to get Aaliyah, they could trade Maddie Siegrist in a second next year.
Okay.
They could trade a first next year in Isaiah James, which I think would be too much to ask for. Or they could trade Ty Harris, Isaiah James, and a second round pick in the following draft. The most likely of those packages would probably be Maddie Siegrist and a second in 2026.
I think so.
I think that would be the most likely because you're not going to want to trade for Isaiah James or Ty Harris because, again, you have Georgia Amore coming back next year.
Yeah,
when she's back from the ACL, you don't want to make a problem for yourself at the point guard position. Plus, they seem to be satisfied with what Jade Melvin and Shug Sutton has been doing so far with their split minutes at the point guard position. You're not going to want to add to that and then have to rework the point guard rotation. And you don't want to get rid of a log jam in the front court and then create a log jam in the back court. You don't want to do that. Shooting guard wise, they're a bit thin. I mean, obviously you have Sonia Citron, who's been playing well, and Slim, for all intents and purposes, kind of plays back and forth between the 2 and the 3. Aside from that, they do have Lucy Olson, and Lucy Olson does get a couple minutes here and there. She had a pretty good game the other day, but getting someone like Maddie Siegrist, I think in the shooting guard department, if they were going to ask for a player back, it would make more sense that they would have
consider Maddie Siegrist a shooting guard.
She'd be a shooting guard in Washington. They'd play her at the 2 or 3 in Washington.
You think that's her skill? Do you think she's a shooting guard though?
I
think her position is still in flux, honestly.
I think so I think it's in flux. I think just if I'm thinking about the Mystics roster right now, like she would probably play the most at the 2 because that's their weakest spot. Their weakest spot right now is point guard because Georgia Amore's hurt. But aside from that, like you would probably put her there, stagger some minutes with Sonia, stagger some minutes with Slim, probably want to put her in there, just to kind of figure it out. But if you're not getting Enrique, obviously, like, they're not going to want a big, so you're just looking at guards.
Yeah.
They're not going to trade for Dejounte. You're not going to trade for Ty Harris. The only other player other than Enrique that's a guard that you would actually be able to get from Dallas would be Maddie Siegrist. So I think the most likely trade package would be Maddie Siegrist and a second-round pick in 2026.
I agree with you. I think that'd be the most likely. I think that'd be a decent trade too. I mean, Maddie Siegrist, I think she's more of a roamer. Again, I don't really have a feel for her true position. Like in college, she was a 4. In the WNBA, your position can change, especially if you're undersized.
Yeah.
I think the way she's played, I think she is a wing. I think she's showing that she can be like a wing. But she plays below the free throw line. She's an interesting player. She's an interesting player. I really like Maddie Siegrist. Good motor, good skill set. Like she was a prolific scorer in college at Villanova. So she can score the ball. Hasn't been like a great scorer in the W, hasn't shown to be that yet, but she's a high energy, high motor player, and does a lot of good things well. So
sure.
I think that'd be the most realistic. I think that'd be a decent trade too for even for Washington.
Now, I tweeted this from our Twitter. Now, what I do think is if the Wings do get Aaliyah Edwards, I have a hard time seeing a scenario where they keep Enrique. Like if they're gonna, and the reason why is just because if you're gonna go get Aaliyah Edwards, like you might as well just send Enrique to the highest bidder and just commit to building this team around Paige Beckers at this point.
I mean, I still think you give it one more year though with Paige and Enrique. If you were to get Aaliyah Edwards,
sure.
I mean, yeah, maybe see what I think you still play out this season. That I'll say that maybe not a whole nother year. Enrique has one more year left on her deal. I think you still have to play out this season. Like with Aaliyah Edwards, I think you see what you can do with this group now, and obviously just try to win some games. I mean, it doesn't look like Aaliyah Edwards isn't turning them into a contender, or maybe helps them like win a few more games. I don't know about the playoff hunt if that would be realistic, but at least give them a little more competitive juice. But I mean, yeah, we've talked about. I mean, the Enrique trade almost feels imminent, almost. Yeah. And so I think that's a fair point. I mean, if they bring in Aaliyah Edwards, again, pairing her with Paige, I think the vision for Dallas going forward is going to be interesting. Like what kind of moves they're making to show that, hey, this is going to be Paige's team, or we want to build around the Paige and Enrique backcourt together going forward.
I think it's possible. It's just the more I watch the Wings games, the more I feel like Paige would, and maybe the Wings would probably want Paige to play along a 2 guard who is not as ball dominant as Enrique.
Yeah.
Which is and the thought of Enrique and Paige playing together, obviously, like it was a great idea. And if it was able to work, and I'm not saying it can't work, there's obviously still time left this season. I agree with you. If they did trade Enrique, I don't think it would be before August 8th. I definitely think they would let the season play out to really figure it out. But I would also say, though, that with there only being a year left on her deal, trading Enrique in season, you would probably get a better package trading her in season than you would in the off season, because if a team is willing to trade for Enrique in season, that pretty much is guaranteeing you that they're also going to sign the extension. And so they would be more willing to give up more stuff. If you trade for her in the offseason, they're kind of like, we don't want to give up too much because she might not even be here in 2027.
Yeah.
If a team is calling for Enrique and trades for Enrique now for her to play in the rest of this season and 2026, an extension would be imminent for that team as well. So from the Dallas Wings standpoint, and it would be in their best interest to shop Enrique now. But in the interest of trying to figure out what exactly they need to do moving forward, I agree with you. They'll probably let the season play out. And if they decide to move on from her, they'll just get with the best that they can get in the offseason. But I don't think the best package in the offseason would be at the same caliber of what they could get, like if they traded Enrique tomorrow.
Yeah. And we all know the glaring weakness and flaw with the Chicago Sky with their guard rotation and their guard ability. That's a team. It just struck me like maybe that's a team that might have interest in Enrique, because I've said like Enrique is going to become a really interesting case. I compared it to someone on the NBA side. I can't remember who I said. A scorer that KD.
Yes.
KD.
Yeah.
Like, you're only trading for a player like that when it's like, we desperately need scoring at your position. And that's what Chicago needs right now. So I wonder if they ever emerge as a potential suitor for Enrique, because she's an interesting case, man. I mean, I don't think most teams are really looking to add. You add an Enrique, you're adding a volume scorer, someone who is not just gonna like fit in the system, like. And not to say she is not to say she is this in a way she is, but like, she's the system in the sense that when she gets the ball, she's going to look to score, like, and she can be part of. I had talked about this before too with the Washington thing. Like, if Enrique was more of like a collaborative kind of player, not that she's selfish or a black hole, or I don't throw terms like that out. She's just a scorer, a really good one, and her confidence is validated by her scoring ability. But if she were to show that she was a little more collaborative, a little more of like a system player, so to speak, a team like Washington might be more interested in her, because trading for her means that, again, she's going to swallow up a lot of those shot attempts, and other players are going to lose out on some opportunities. But I still, for the right team, it could still be worth it. When you're that good of a scorer, could be worth it.
The only thing I'll say about the Chicago Sky point, and I think they could greatly benefit from Enrique's scoring ability, obviously.
Yeah,
I just
everyone's still crying about losing Kennedy Carter.
Yeah,
that's a new version of Kennedy Carter, essentially.
A better version of Kennedy Carter as well. Absolutely.
Probably, yeah.
I just think back though to the conversation that we've consistently had on this show. The Chicago Sky need a point guard, bro.
Yeah,
like,
no,
even if they trade for Enrique, they're still going to need a point guard, and then we're still having the exact same conversation in 2026 or 2027. If they 100%. If they do draft a young point guard, it's okay. Well, can this young point guard actually work well with Enrique? And again, that's not to say that Enrique is a problem necessarily, but when you're trading for a traditional, we have a traditional point guard, on your team, you want that player to be on the ball as much as possible, because that's where their strengths are. Enrique, she's great. She's the best two guard in the league, in my opinion, but she's very ball dominant. And so Enrique kind of almost has to be on a team where she can be ball dominant, and they have a non-traditional point guard. And I'm kind of drawing blanks on who, like maybe someone like Sabrina would probably play better, or like a Caitlin would play better alongside of an Enrique, because they move off the ball and they can score. They don't need the ball in their hands necessarily to do other things, but you still want them to have the ball. It's a really interesting thing. I agree with you. Enrique is going to be the most interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the WNBA, but I think from a player standpoint, Enrique is probably the most interesting player over the next couple of years, because I don't know if she's going to be in Dallas after 2026.
Right. It's the Paige factor, man. It all comes down to what you were kind of just saying. Like, how is she really playing with Paige? Are they both really shining? And then is it producing wins? That's the biggest problem right now, is that like, no matter how much we love both of them separately or together, they're not winning games. It's not enough to produce wins. The roster still needs work, but it's like, if those two are going to be the cornerstone, you got to see a little more production out of it.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to talk women's basketball with my guy, Martin Sories, early in the morning. We will be right back here tomorrow morning.
We are not done. Tomorrow morning, we are back. We're going to get in. We are going to get into
some stuff tomorrow morning.
There's more to talk about.
We are talking about the All-Star rosters were announced, or the All-Star pool was announced. Also, 3 new expansion cities were announced. We're going to get into a bit of that tomorrow, and a lot more that goes into that. So make sure you're subscribed to Basketball Society on YouTube so you don't miss that episode tomorrow, or any future episode of the Protect Our Queens podcast. And then when you're done, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter at @ProtectOurQueens_ on Instagram, at @POQueens_ on Twitter. As always, thank you guys. By the way,
we do love Ariel Atkins. I do want to say, I liked that pickup for them. She's doing great. I think but I think.
And can we stop it with they traded Ariel Atkins for Sonia Citron thing? Like, I know it's easy to say that, but it's not really what happened. So let's let Ariel Atkins be great in her own way. And she's done a pretty good job in Chicago.
Chicago Cheetah thinks Chicago Sky would be great for Enrique. So
probably
we take it from the Cheetah.
I won't question the Cheetah. I won't do that. It's always a pleasure. For my guy, Martin Sories of Basketball Society, this is Marcus of the Protect Our Queens podcast signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you enjoy yourselves some women's basketball.